Hundreds of demonstrators are gathering in Los Angeles for a No War on Iran rally. Activists are calling for an end to intervention, sanctions, and assassinations. The protest is part of a national day of action. The call is sponsored by Occupy Los Angeles, along with scores of progressive and anti-war organizations. Mike Preisner is an Iraq War veteran and an organizer with the Answer Coalition. Preisner says protesters want to stop America from starting another unauthorized war in the Middle East, similar to what happened in Iraq.
And we saw the disastrous effect of 1 million dead Iraqis, 5,000 dead U.S. soldiers, and really a $3 trillion war, and people aren't standing for it anymore.
Activists say the war drive is based on U.S. imperialism and a desire to control the resources of the Middle East. The protesters believe that despite U.S. government's claims, Iranian people are the main targets of the sanctions.
You're bringing a humanitarian crisis to the people of Iran, no doubt. We did that, indeed, in Iraq, and it cost more lives than our bombing. It's illegal. Under international law, it's an act of war, and it's illegal to be doing that.
The National Lawyers Guild was on hand to ensure that the police did not infringe on the protesters' rights. Police did detain one person for allegedly blocking traffic, despite several witnesses saying otherwise.
It's a little scary to have a bunch of people that you can't see with their hands all over you. But, you know, I'm more determined than ever, actually, now.
Anti-war activists say they're encouraged by the momentum provided by Occupy groups across the country. They say the power of the Occupy message could play a major role in preventing future wars.
These are the wars for the 1% at the expense of the 99%. So it fits in completely with the ideals and with the slogans of the Occupy movement, which is why these actions are picking up steam across the country.
Protesters say they want President Barack Obama to end the sanctions and allow Iran to develop its nuclear program without international interference.
Occupy LA activists say they plan to continue to spread this anti-war message through future demonstrations. This includes the citywide general strike planned for May 1st. Ross Frazier, Press TV, Los Angeles.
Hundreds of demonstrators marched across New York City on Saturday with a message of solidarity with the Iranian nation. The demonstrations are part of an international day of action against sanctions on Iran and a possible war. Across the United States, thousands have taken to the streets in more than 70 cities, while in other nations including Canada, India, and the UK, protesters are calling for a safe and secure world without another war.
Is this going to be another war based on lies? Why would we support it? And in New York, and 78 other cities, there are people in the United States, who oppose a U.S. war on Iran.
Weary of the U.S. government's wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, protesters from all walks of life chanted slogans of peace as they made their way from Times Square to the U.S. mission to the United Nations, where Eleanor Omani, one of the organizers, read her open letter to U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Susan Rice, calling for an end to U.S. isolationist policies.
Dear Ambassador Rice!
Dear Ambassador Rice!
I stand before the U.S. mission to the UN.
I stand before the U.S. mission to the UN.
With great pain and anger in my heart.
With posters and placards in hand, and under heavy police security, demonstrators called for more jobs and a higher employment rate rather than another war.
We're horrified at the thought that our government seems to be saber-rattling and acting as though the idea that Iran could have a nuclear weapon is anything to worry about, less than that we have zillions of nuclear weapons, and so does Pakistan, and so does Israel, and it's just a made-up excuse.
We should not be defending Israel at the cost of world war because they want to go on occupying land that does not belong to them.
With an active discussion in the U.S. and Israeli media about a possible attack on Iran's energy facilities and a new round of sanctions against Iran, many are worried that if they don't take to the streets and protest, the consequences will be dire. Susan Madaris, Press TV, New York.
Well, there are so many reasons. It's difficult to know where to begin. But America has changed radically, and not for the better, over the past 30, 40 years. This has not been a sudden development. This has been a long time in coming. And we now have a number of federal agencies with tens of thousands of employees who are spying on Americans at every aspect of American life. We have a government which is providing local police departments with SWAT teams, which use incredible force in putting down protesters. And we can see this with the clubbing and the pepper spraying of people in the Out Wall Street movement around the country. We can see the extension of the no-fly lists where thousands of Americans, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, are barred from getting on an airliner, and they cannot challenge the reasons for which they're being barred. We are seeing a country where the president can have the military arrest any person on the president's say-so without a court order and put them in indefinite military confinement. So for all these and many other reasons, we see the evolution of a sad and tragic police state that is emerging from a country which was once considered a fountainhead of civil liberties and civil rights.
The Park Service showed up at about 5 in the morning with about 100 cops, many of them in riot gear, some on horses, and they basically first took down the tent of dreams that we put up in the middle, took down all the tents inside the middle grass area, and then told us that they would be taking down tents that had bedding material in them. But so far they've actually been taking pretty much every tent they see, including tents that are totally empty, that are in full compliance with the regulations that they published a week ago. So they've not stayed true to their word, and it's apparent that they're just trying to have a clean eviction without ugly videos coming out of them hitting people, and without anyone really coming out to see it, or without us making too much fuss. 4 people were arrested defending the inner circle in the center of McPherson Square. Many others were beaten with batons and riot shields. We were also told we could be arrested for standing on the sidewalk. So it's been a great display of fascism today.